"We're going today, Dad. I've sold your beach house." But what she didn't know was, the house wasn't just hiding memories. It was hiding her mother's biggest secret. The sky above Cape May was the color of faded denim, that soft blue that always looked like a memory. The kind of sky you only got on early summer mornings, before the tourists rolled in and the smell of sunscreen replaced the salt. Mia stood in the driveway, arms crossed, watching the old wooden house in front of her. It looked exactly like it did when she was 10. The chipped white paint, the porch swing that squeaked on windy days, the crooked welcome sign her dad had carved by hand. Only now it wasn't really home anymore. Her father, Richard, had refused to come outside when she arrived that morning. He'd just shouted from the window, "If you're here about that letter, you can turn around right now." But she hadn't turned around. She couldn't. Mia took a deep breath and opened the front door. The smell of old books and ocean air hit her immediately. Her dad's house always smelled like both. Inside, Richard sat in his worn leather chair, the same one he used to read her bedtime stories from when she was a kid. His reading glasses rested on the bridge of his nose, and a mug of coffee sat cold beside him. "Morning, Dad," she said softly. He didn't look up. "You could have called." "I did. 3 times. I meant before you went and did something stupid." She felt her throat tighten. He already knew. "I had to," she said, her voice breaking a little. "You can't live here alone anymore. You've fallen twice this year. The beach house is falling apart and I built this place, Mia. Every nail, every inch of wood. You think I don't know what's wrong with it?" She sighed, walking closer. "Then you know it's not safe." Richard finally looked up, his blue eyes sharp but tired. "You think safety is what matters here? This house is the last thing I have left of your mother." That stopped her cold. Mia glanced at the photo on the mantel. Her mom, Claire, standing in front of the same house, wearing a red sundress and holding a paintbrush. The year was 1995. They'd painted the shutters that summer. Her mom humming along to Fleetwood Mac on a portable radio. "She's gone, Dad," Mia said quietly. "This house doesn't bring her back." He frowned deeply, his hand gripping the armrest. "You're wrong. She's here every time I open the windows and smell the ocean. Every time the gulls scream at dawn. She's in the floorboards, the kitchen table, the damn swing out front." His voice trembled, and for a second she saw it. The loneliness he tried so hard to hide. Mia knelt beside him. "I'm not trying to take her away from you. I'm trying to help. You can't keep doing this alone. There's a place in town, Bayview Assisted Living. It's not what you think. They've got gardens, a library. I'm not leaving." She swallowed hard. "You don't have a choice." He blinked slowly, his eyes narrowing. "What do you mean?" "I sold the house." The silence after that felt endless. The ticking clock on the wall suddenly seemed louder, the waves outside dull and distant. Richard stared at her, his jaw tightening. "You what?" "I sold it," she repeated, her voice shaking now. "The papers went through last week. I'm here to help you pack. We're leaving today." He stood, his movements sharp and angry for someone his age. "You had no right. I'm your daughter. I'm just trying to. You're not my guardian, Mia. You can't just come here and sell my life out from under me like it's a used car." Her eyes welled up. "Dad, please. You're not seeing what I'm seeing. The mold, the leaks. I see it. I just don't care." He slammed his fist on the table, sending a stack of old letters fluttering to the ground. They landed face up, and she saw her mother's handwriting on one of the envelopes. "To my Richard, 1998. Something inside her twisted painfully. Richard slowly sank back into his chair. His voice quiet now. "You never asked me, Mia. You just decided. Like I don't matter anymore." She hesitated, feeling the weight of guilt pressing on her chest. "Of course you matter." He looked at her, really looked. "Then why does it feel like you've already buried me?" Mia couldn't answer. Outside, the ocean wind rattled the porch swing. The day was supposed to be simple, pack up, move her dad, and close a painful chapter. But as she stood there in that living room, surrounded by ghosts of her childhood, she realized nothing about this day was going to be simple. Richard turned his face toward the window, the light catching the lines of age around his eyes. He whispered, almost to himself, "You think you know everything, don't you? You think you know what this house means." Then he looked at her again, his voice low and measured. "But there's something you don't know, Mia. Something your mother made me promise never to tell you." She froze. "What are you talking about?" He looked back toward the ocean, his expression unreadable. Mia spent the next hour in silence, boxing up dishes while her father sat motionless in his chair, watching the waves through the window. Every few minutes she glanced over at him, wondering if he was still angry, or if he was just lost in his thoughts. She taped another box shut and wrote "kitchen" in black marker, the word looking more like an apology than a label. "Dad," she finally said, breaking the quiet. "What did you mean earlier? About something Mom made you promise?" He didn't answer. She tried again. "You said there was something I don't know." Richard turned to her slowly. "You really want to know?" "Yes." He leaned back, his hands clasped in his lap. "Then stop packing." Mia hesitated, setting the tape down. "I mean it," he said. "Put the box down and sit." She sat across from him on the old couch. The fabric was faded and sun-bleached, still smelling faintly of ocean salt and her mom's lavender spray. "When your mother got sick," he began, his voice rough, "she didn't want you to see her that way. You were still in college. She told me not to call you home. Said she wanted you to remember her laughing, painting, alive. Not the way she was at the end." Mia swallowed hard. "I know that part, Dad." He nodded. "Yeah, but you don't know what she did before she passed." She frowned. "What do you mean?" Richard looked toward the kitchen. "She made me promise that no matter what, I'd never sell this house. She said one day you'd need it." Mia blinked. "Need it? For what?" He sighed. "That's the part one don't know." She was weak, barely speaking, but she grabbed my hand and said, "Don't let Mia sell the house. There's something here she'll need someday." A chill crawled down Mia's spine. "Dad, that doesn't make sense." "Maybe she meant." "I searched this place for months after she passed," he interrupted. "I thought maybe she'd hidden something, a letter, a box, something for you. But I never found a thing. I figured she was just delirious. But now you show up telling me it's sold, and I can't stop thinking about what she said." Mia rubbed her temples. "Dad, it's been 20 years. If there was something, we'd have found it by now. Maybe you didn't know where to look." He stood, his movements stiff but determined, and shuffled toward the hallway. Mia followed, curiosity wrestling with frustration. He stopped outside her old bedroom door. The pink paint was long gone, replaced by a dull beige. But when he opened it, she could still see traces of the girl she used to be. Stickers on the window frame, a cracked seashell on the sill. Richard pointed to the far wall. "You remember that mural your mom painted for you?" Mia smiled faintly. "The one with the dolphins?" "Yeah." He nodded. "I painted over it after she passed. I couldn't stand looking at it." "Dad." "But the thing is," he said, stepping closer, "your mother painted something underneath that mural first. Something she said she didn't want anyone to see until the time was right." Mia frowned. "You mean there's another painting under there? Not just a painting?" He reached for a small hammer on the shelf. "Something behind it." Before she could stop him, he started tapping along the wall, listening for hollow spots. After a few tries, the sound changed, a low, empty thud. "Right here," he murmured. He wedged the hammer's claw into the wall and pried back a square of plaster. Dust filled the air. Behind it, something metallic glimmered. Mia's heart started pounding. "What is that?" she whispered. Richard reached in carefully and pulled out a small tin box, rusted around the edges but still intact. He wiped it clean with his sleeve and handed it to her. "Go on," he said. Mia hesitated before opening the latch. Inside were several folded papers tied with a faded blue ribbon, and a small key. She unfolded the first letter, recognizing her mother's neat, looping handwriting. My dearest Mia, if you are reading this, it means I'm gone, and your father kept his promise. I wish I could have seen you become the woman I always knew you'd be. There's something you must know about this house. It isn't just where you grew up. It's where our family began, and where a truth has been buried, waiting for you to find it. Mia's hands trembled as she read. The letter went on. In the storage shed by the dunes, beneath the old floorboards, you'll find a small chest. The key is in this box. Belongs to you. Whatever you do, don't let anyone else open it. Mia looked up at her father, her mouth dry. Did you know about this? He shook his head slowly, eyes wide. No. I swear to you I didn't. They both stood there for a long moment, the only sound the wind rattling through the cracked window. Finally Mia whispered, I guess we're going to the shed. Richard smiled faintly, the first real smile she'd seen all day. Looks like we are. They walked out toward the dunes together, the soft sand sinking beneath their feet. The shed loomed ahead, weather-beaten, half-collapsed, and overrun with vines. It looked like it hadn't been opened in years. Richard fumbled with the latch until it gave way, the door creaking open to reveal a clutter of old fishing gear, rusted tools and boxes. There, he said, pointing to the wooden floorboards in the corner. Mia knelt, brushing away sand and dust until she saw the outline of a loose plank. She slid the key from her pocket, noticing a small padlock on one of the boards, a strange detail she'd never noticed before. Fit perfectly. The lock clicked open, and with a hesitant pull, she lifted the board. Inside was a small wooden chest, about the size of a shoebox, wrapped in an old piece of cloth. Mia carefully lifted it out, brushing off the dirt. Her heart pounded as she placed it between them. You ready? She asked. Her father nodded. Go ahead. Mia took a breath and opened the chest. Inside were several faded photographs, a gold bracelet, and, to her surprise, an official-looking envelope stamped confidential from a law firm she didn't recognize. What is this? She murmured, pulling it out. Richard frowned. Open it. Mia did and froze. The papers inside weren't old. They were dated just 2 years ago. Dad. This isn't Mom's handwriting. And it's recent. He took the papers from her, scanning them, his face draining of color. Mia, he whispered, voice trembling. These are adoption records. She blinked. Adoption. He nodded, staring at the page. For you. The world seemed to tilt sideways. What are you talking about? She said, laughing nervously. That's impossible. You and Mom. But Richard didn't answer. He just kept reading, his eyes wide with something like shock or guilt. Mia stared at her father, her pulse racing so hard she could hear it echoing in her ears. What do you mean, adoption records? She asked again, this time louder. Richard didn't answer right away. He sat down slowly on the wooden crate beside the chest, his eyes fixed on the papers as though they were written in fire. Dad, she said, her voice trembling. Tell me this isn't what I think it is. He exhaled shakily, folding the papers back into the envelope. I was hoping you'd never find this. Her heart clenched. So it's true. He looked up at her, eyes red, tired but soft. You were adopted, Mia. But not the way you think. The shed seemed to shrink around them. I don't understand, she whispered. You and Mom always told me you had trouble having kids, but I was your miracle baby. You were, he said quietly. Just not in the way we told you. He rubbed his hands over his face. Your mother couldn't have children. We tried for years. Doctors, treatments, prayers. Nothing. It broke her. But then, one night, about 6 months after another failed round, a woman showed up here. She was young, scared. Said she knew Claire from college. She had a baby with her, you. Mia's breath caught. You mean? I was just left here. She didn't just leave you, Richard said. She begged us to take you. She said she couldn't raise you herself, that people were after her, that she had to disappear. Your mother held you and it was like the sun came back into her life. I'd never seen her so sure about anything. She said it was fate. Mia felt dizzy. And you just kept me. He nodded. We contacted a lawyer, someone your mother trusted, and he arranged the papers. Made it all legal. Your birth mother disappeared a week later. We never saw her again. Mia shook her head, stepping back. So all this time you both just lied to me? He stood, his voice pained. We didn't lie, sweetheart. We loved you. That's what mattered. You were ours in every way that counted. But you knew, she said bitterly. You both knew, and you never told me. She wanted to tell you, Richard said softly. When you were older. But then she got sick, and she made me promise, no matter what happened, that you'd never learn the truth until you were ready. Ready? Mia snapped. You think I'm ready now? You think finding this in a box buried under the shed is how I should have found out? He didn't answer. The gulls cried outside, their voices sharp against the wind. Mia turned away, trying to breathe. The whole world suddenly felt unstable, like the floor itself was giving out beneath her. After a long silence, she whispered, Who was she, Dad? My real mother. Richard's expression darkened. That's the part one never figured out. She didn't give a name. But your mother, Claire, she might have known. There was something between them, something she never told me. I found letters once, years ago, in her art studio. She'd hidden them in one of her sketchbooks. But before I could read them, she burned them. Why would she do that? He sighed. Maybe to protect you. Maybe to protect herself. I don't know. But she always said there were things about your birth she couldn't explain. Things that scared her. Mia looked down at the chest again, her hands trembling. The photographs inside were faded and curled, but one caught her eye. A picture of her mother, Claire, holding a baby on the porch of the beach house. The baby had a tiny birthmark on the wrist, a small crescent moon. Mia looked down at her own wrist. The same mark. Her stomach turned. So she knew. She knew I was that baby. Yes, Richard said. From the very first day. Mia sat down hard on the sandy floor. All these years I thought this house was just where we made memories. But it's where it all started. Richard knelt beside her. That's why your mother made me promise not to sell it. She said one day the truth would come out here. Not in some office, not through some lawyer, but here where it began. Mia ran her hands through her hair. And now it's gone. I sold it. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Maybe that's why she wanted you to come back before it was gone. To find this, to learn who you really are. She looked up at him. But what now? What am I supposed to do with this? I don't even know who I am anymore. You're my daughter, he said firmly. That's who you are. She met his eyes. There was no anger there now, just sorrow and something deeper. Love, raw and quiet. For the first time she saw how much he had carried. The secrets, the promises, the guilt. After a long silence she said softly, I want to find her. Richard nodded slowly. I thought you might. He handed her one of the photographs. On the back, in faint pencil, were the words, For Mia when she's ready. Underneath that, a set of initials, EL. Mia traced the letters with her thumb. EL. That has to be her. My birth mother. Maybe, Richard said. But there's something else too. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper. I never showed you this before. Your mother gave it to me the day she died. Said if you ever found the truth, I should give this to you. Mia took it carefully. On it was a single line, written in Claire's unmistakable handwriting. When the tide is lowest, look beneath the pier. Mia frowned. What does that mean? Richard smiled faintly. Knowing your mother. Probably another secret. The wind picked up, rattling the shed door. The sound of waves grew louder, closer. Mia stood, determination burning through the confusion. Then we'll find it. Whatever it is. Richard hesitated. You sure? It's almost sunset. The tide's going out, but... Then it's the perfect time, she said. He nodded slowly. All right. Let's go. They walked back toward the beach, the light turning golden and long. The waves hissed softly as they rolled out, revealing dark, wet sand beneath the old wooden pier. Mia crouched down, scanning the area. What exactly are we looking for? Your guess is as good as mine, Richard said. Your mother loved her clues. She brushed away sand and seaweed, searching for anything unusual. After a few minutes, her hand hit something solid, a smooth, flat stone that didn't look like the others. Dad, she called. Together they lifted it, revealing a small waterproof tin, just big enough to hold a notebook. Mia opened it carefully. Inside was a thin, salt-stained journal wrapped in plastic. On the first page, in her mother's handwriting, were the words, "For Mia, the truth you deserve. Would you have sold it if you knew the truth? Keep reading, because what her father reveals inside that old beach house will change everything she thought she knew about her family, her mother, and herself." The sun was sinking low, throwing streaks of gold and violet across the ocean. Waves rolled softly under the pier, washing over Mia's shoes as she sat cross-legged on the sand with the journal in her lap. Her father stood a few feet away, his silhouette dark against the fading light, watching her with quiet concern. Her hands shook as she turned the first page. The paper was warped from salt, the ink smudged in places, but the words were still legible. Her mother's handwriting, delicate and looping. My dearest Mia, if you've found this, it means you've learned the truth, or part of it. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you myself. You deserved honesty, but I was afraid. Afraid that what I'd done would make you hate me. Afraid you'd see me not as your mother, but as the woman who stole you from another life. Mia's breath caught. She looked up at her father, but he just nodded for her to keep reading. I met your birth mother, Elise, when I was 27. She was brilliant, artistic, but reckless. We were roommates in college for a short time, before her life took a darker turn. She fell in with people who used her, hurt her, and left her scared. When she came to me years later, holding you, she was desperate. She said she couldn't protect you anymore. She asked me to take you, to give you the life she couldn't. I agreed, not out of charity but out of love. The moment I held you, I knew I would do anything to keep you safe. Even if it meant lying to the world. Mia's throat tightened. She turned another page. Elise didn't just disappear. She stayed close, watching from a distance. She came by the beach house sometimes just to see you playing in the yard. You'd wave at her, thinking she was one of our neighbors. I told you she was a friend. You never suspected. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Oh my God! Richard knelt beside her, eyes glistening. She told me about those visits, he said softly. But I didn't realize who the woman was until later. Mia kept reading. Elise left something for you, a painting. She said when the time came you'd recognize it. I hid it beneath your mural, afraid your father would paint over it after I was gone. If he did, that's all right. You'll still find it when you're ready. Mia looked up sharply. The wall, she whispered. The painting under the plaster. Richard nodded. We only found the box. Maybe there's more beneath it. I don't know if Elise is still alive, Mia. She was planning to run, change her name, start over. But I hope that if she's out there, she'll see the woman you've become and know that her sacrifice wasn't in vain. Mia's vision blurred with tears. She closed the journal gently, pressing her palm against its cover like she could somehow touch her mother through it. She wasn't just protecting me, she said quietly. She was protecting both of them. Richard sat down beside her, the sand cool beneath them. She carried that secret for years. It ate her up inside, but she thought she was doing what was right. Mia nodded slowly. And you protected her secret too. He gave a weary smile. Because I loved her. And because I love you. They sat in silence, listening to the waves. Finally, Mia whispered, I think I need to find Elise. Richard's eyes softened. You sure? She nodded. She's part of who I am. And if Mom wanted me to know the truth, then I think she wanted me to find peace. Not just for her, but for Elise too. He reached over and squeezed her hand. Then we'll find her together. A week later. The beach house was nearly empty now. Boxes were stacked by the front door, ready to be loaded into the truck. The new owners were due to arrive in 2 days. But before leaving, Mia wanted to check one last thing. She went back to her old bedroom, the one with the painted-over mural. Sunlight streamed through the window, falling across the patched wall where she and her father had found the box. The hole they'd made was still there, rough around the edges. Something about it nagged at her. She stepped closer, pressing her palm to the wall. The surface felt uneven, like another layer had been added. "Dad," she called. He appeared in the doorway. "What is it?" "I think there's more behind this." Richard frowned. "You sure?" "Yeah. Mom mentioned a painting." He sighed but smiled faintly. "One last secret, huh?" Together, they peeled away the plaster until a faint image began to emerge. Soft blues, greens, and golds. The more they uncovered, the clearer it became. A portrait of a woman standing by the shore, holding a baby. The woman's face was unmistakable Elise. But next to her, standing a few feet away, was Claire, smiling. Their hands almost touched, the baby, Mia, cradled between them. Mia's heart swelled painfully. It wasn't just a painting. It was a promise. Her father stared at it for a long time. "She must have painted this before she got sick," he whispered. "She wanted you to see the truth one day, that you were loved by both of them." Mia reached out and brushed her fingers over the image of her mother's. "They weren't enemies," she said softly. "They were family." Richard nodded. "All of us were." Later that evening, they stood outside on the porch, the last light of day slipping over the horizon. The moving truck sat in the driveway, half-loaded. "Do you regret selling it?" Richard asked quietly. Mia looked back at the house. "No. Mom was right. It was time to find the truth here, but it's also time to let it go." He nodded slowly. "She'd be proud of you." "I hope so." She smiled faintly. "You ready?" He took one last look at the porch swing, at the windows glowing orange with the setting sun. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'm ready." As they climbed into the truck, Mia felt the weight of everything. The lies, the secrets, the years of silence begin to lift. The truth hadn't destroyed her. It had set her free. She glanced at her father, who was staring out toward the sea. "Dad." "Yeah. Thank you." He smiled. "For what?" "For keeping your promise." He chuckled, eyes glistening. "Guess we both kept hers, huh?" Mia looked out the window one last time. The beach house stood quietly against the darkening sky, the sound of the waves rising and falling like a heartbeat. In the distance, the pier lights flickered on, shimmering across the water, steady, unwavering. She whispered to herself, "Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Elise." And as the truck rolled down the quiet coastal road, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time, peace. Some houses hold more than memories. They hold the pieces of who we are. Would you have sold it if you knew the truth? If this story touched you, share it, because everyone has a house, a secret, or a person they're still trying to let go of.